Welcome to the Alive Loren Podcast and the place of celebrating juicy, soulful whole. Living, loving, adventuring, just being on this journey of a lifetime. It's a few different things that I've had in my space in different directions, so we'll see where this goes. Two are related actually to movies. So Made in Dagenham was the pick of the month, and I had a friend who didn't land up seeing it because she couldn't, so I don't mind watching it again. So we made a time, and what really stuck out for me was the timing element, because you see in this movie a timing of these women at Ford who went on strike for equal pay. And at that point in the movie, you see that pretty much every time this particular woman takes a stand, there's just like support for it. You know, she comes back to say to the woman who's in favor, and they all raise their hands. And they go on tour with their strike and go to like another Ford factory, and who's in favor, and all raise their hands. And she sets all these like lines in the sand, and things sort of like go in her favor consistently in the theme of the movie. And then after that, I was watching some clips of Mona Lisa Smiles, which is another beautiful movie with Julia Roberts around a female lecturer who lands up working at a university which has a lot of these really wealthy families, where a lot of these young women who get married while they're studying, and then the families just pay so much to run these universities that no one really looks whether they come or don't come, and they still pass, because they've been married, so now they're not really going to continue their education. They're going to be housewives and be the expected spouse for these more very wealthy socialite kind of families. So Julia Roberts' character is very much about wanting to challenge these young women to really take more charge of their lives and to be educated, and to realize you don't have to, it's not an either or. You can still be educated and consider working and have a family. But there's a scene with Van Gogh, and how the way he saw things, being authentic to himself, a lot of people didn't understand, and they thought his art was juvenile, and that in his lifetime he never sold a single painting. And there you've got also a timing of the complete opposite. In Made in Dagenham, the timing was perfect, where every time there's just support and next level, and support and next level, and support and next level. And then you have Van Gogh, who is acting completely in alignment with what is true for him, and no support. I remember hearing stories about how his brother so didn't want him to waste his time with painting that he would give him such little money that it was just enough to buy food. And Van Gogh would literally fast and save money from this tiny amount of money that he was being given, so he could buy paint supplies and eat less, and stay true to the way he saw the world, the art he was creating, whether there was acknowledgement on the outside or not. So it's just profound. Yeah, it's easy when there's acknowledgement on the outside. But what happens when you're following something that is true to you as your path for maximal growth, or it's calling to you as what needs to be done and be honored and what happens if nobody else gets it? And there's no external recognition at all. Yeah. So that was just quite a profound message for me this time around, of just how important it is to just be true and authentic to ourselves and be honest with where we're at and what's coming up and what's alive in us. And even when, it's interesting because it also ties into a talk of Mickey's that I've listened to several times and just found it really significant, that there can be the idea of getting sort of loftier spiritual concept, but if someone isn't there, like there can be, I can read articles to understand the power of healing and the power of the body to just placebo effect and to heal itself. And yet I may have a headache, and despite knowing all of that, I may still need to take some sort of headache tablet. And be okay with that. Be okay with the fact that I can lean into and acknowledge and celebrate and wish to aspire to the place of spontaneous healing and know that it exists. But right now I'm not there and my head's sore and I need to take a headache tablet. Yeah, and just without judgment, with just being sincere and authentic to where we are, what's alive in us. And that everything, it's all, there's no less. I just love the line. Nikki says something like, a child who is in grade 1 learning 1 + 1 is no less significant than someone learning calculus towards the end of their, school journey. It's just different stages and different learnings. And then everything serves and has its value and its part to play. And the other element that also came up for me with the movie with Mona Lisa Smiles is just also this thread of sometimes those that challenge us the most actually help us to grow and expand the most. Because initially in the movie there's a lot of animosity, and there's one particular young character where it's quite a challenging dynamic between this lecturer and this one student. And at the end, they land up becoming, like pretty mighty companions. Whereas at a certain point, this young woman is actually responsible for the lecturer sort of losing her job or it's just very interesting. And there was a very, very powerful scene in there where also, but to really lean into living this, not theoretically. They say hurt people. And the idea that when kids are acting out and when kids behaving in a way when you least feel like giving them loving attention is the time that they need it the most. And really to embody that, not taking something personally, and to know that when someone is lashing out, actually it is the time that they need us the greatest compassion, because they're in the greatest pain and it's coming out in that way. But to actually live in that place and hold space for somebody, to realize how fascinating that is, if it's coming out at you, that someone is saying mean, vile, malicious, is that a word? Really horrendous, toxic things, that not to take it personally. Because in Mona Lisa Smiles, a very powerful scene where one of the young women lands up being very kind of verbally aggressive to one of them who's a lot more flirtatious, and ultimately the friend sees this and actually comes up to her to take her around, to hug her, as opposed to shouting back at her and getting into a defending, how can you call me this and how can you say that? And you see that she breaks to actually start, instead of all the things she was saying at this friend, was actually everything she was feeling about herself in her own relationship. And when her friend came to take her round, all of it collapsed. And wow. But to truly, such a powerful lesson, not just to hear these as concepts or ideas, but wow, if there are two powerful takeaways for me from this, is really just to embrace timing, to be okay with it, whether there's external acknowledgement or not, that things have a time, and it's actually okay. There's nothing wrong if you've planted something and it's in a season where the seed is just germinating and you don't even see it above the soil yet. compared to like a timing when it's already several seasons in and now there's harvest and it's ripe and it's just ready for picking. It's just a different phase. And to live with an authenticity of what's alive in us, serving the moment regardless. Nothing's for perpetual harvest time, nothing. And regardless of external validation. And the other one of really leaning into, wow, not just lip service, of don't take things personally. And to realize that people, if you ever are on the receiving end of some really hurtful, nasty displays, just to know that person is actually in so much pain. Just to hold space for that possibility, to know that it's got nothing to do with you. But to really live that, to know that people who seem to be lashing out and hurtful, actually the best, such a kindness we can do is to hold a compassionate space, to see beyond and to know that there's something. There's some fear, there's some sadness, there's something there. So precious heart, happy adventuring until we meet again. Mwah.